Tandu. Therefore, they are called Tandava. So the word Tandav does not mean the terrible Tandav or the dance of destruction. That is one kind of Tandava. All plays and all dance was classified into two, Sukumar and Avidya. Avidya are the forms which relate to strong emotions like Raudra, Bibhatsa, Bhayanaka. So, certain genres like Vyayog, Samavakar, Dim, which are full of conflict, would also be called Avidha. Avidhaha, that is, they are the art forms or genres or rupakas which are Avidha. And then there are Sukumara, which are full of song and dance of Kaishiki Vritti. Right? They would be Natak, Prakarana, Ihamriga. Well, Ihamriga actually belongs to the Avidha category because there is conflict in it. So, this also applies to dance. Remember, what is most important in a performance is the emotional paraphernalia, is the bhava. If you are going to perform Shringar, then everything will be accordingly. Dance and gesture and speech and music, everything will be accordingly set. If you are going to perform a dominant emotion of Bhayanak, then it will be of the Avidha kind. So, Tandav or Nritta will be either of the representing destruction or representing love. It can be both. So, Tandav does not mean just the dance of destruction or the dance of Shiva. It is not only the Tandav as given in Ravana Kritam Stotram Jata Kataha Sabhrama Brahman Nilimpa Nirjari. It's not just that Tandava. That is one kind of dance which Shiva does when he has to bring an end to the world. Harha Sankshobhyainam Bhajati Bhasito Dhulan Vidhim. That is when he destroys the whole world and makes it into dust and puts that dust on his body. That's the idea which the Naga Babas are supposed to follow. All right. Coming back to Tandu and Tanda. Abhinav Gupta tells us that Tandu is actually another name for Nandi. Now, I am not sure if Nandi and Nandikeshwar are the same. They could be, they could not be, because Nandikeshwar is another name in the text for dance. But Abhinav Gupta is very clear that Tandu is another name for Nandi, and Nandi is one of the Ganas of Shiva. Gana means student as well, disciple as well. As I told you very early, that all this is not to be taken only at the level of Devi Devata Darshan, description of gods and goddesses. This is also to be taken as systems of knowledge. These are traditions of learning and teaching of the knowledge of song, music and dance. So these are schools of performing arts, and these are acharyas. They are not just devatas. This is something you have to remember. Now, the question, what is a karana? It's a little difficult to decide what exactly is karana. Of course, we see 108 karanas described in the Natya Shastra, then sculpted in various places in various temples. And wonderful work has been done in the past 30 years, very largely by Dr. Padma Subramaniam. Wonderful work has been done by her in explicating all this. And karanas were used not just in southern India, but as we are now discovering, they were used wherever there was the tradition of song and dance. I don't remember, but they have now been discovered in the temples in the further eastern region also. And there was this a very big effort on the part of sculptors to make them part of the Garbhagraha and to indicate them somewhere. So the idea which is explained to us here, that karanas are used in the Vedic dhruvas, Asarit, Vardhamanak, etc., which I just described to you, again indicates that karana as nritta, not as nritya, not as abhinay, nritta were part of the Vedic performances. And when the tradition came into theatre, and when the modes of worship developed further into formation of temples, then nritta and hence the karanas became part of the temple architecture, part of the temple sculpture. Are you able to follow what I am trying to point out? All right, repeat again. We have just read the verses to describe where Shiva says that, look, Bharat Muni, you have done this prayoga of Purvarang, which consists of dhruvas like Vardhamanak and Asaret and several others which he does not name in this verse, but earlier they were named in the context of Purvarang, which I gave to you yesterday. Now, these are the dhruvas, which is dance compositions. I explained to you a minute ago the meaning of the word dhruva and what it means in this context. These are the dance compositions or songs or song dance sequences which have a Vedic origin, which were also performed during the Vedic sacrifices. As I said, that Vedic sacrifice, a whole satra, was not just giving ahutis and sitting around the different fires, sacrificial altars, but it was a whole event, an utsav, in which many things happened, including song and dance and playing of veenas, etc. So from that period, these dances enter into Purvarang. And these dances, he says, they are nritta, and these nrittas consist of karana. And I explained to you a minute ago how Shiva says that these are eternal. Even I have not created them. Maya api smritam. I have recalled them and then danced. And Abhinav Gupta then says, Anaditvam lakshyate. Abhinav Gupta certifies it. So, practically speaking, they are coming from a very old period, when the modes of worship from the Vedic worship changes into temple worship, then the form of dhruva or dhruvagan, this kind of dhruvagan, which is described here as part of Purvarang, also enters in the form of Karanas into the temple sculpture. Is that clear now? Dhruva Gan, Dhruvas, they from the Vedic performances enter into the Natyashas performance, all right? Early theatrical performance. And because these Dhruvas consist of Nritta and Karanas, the Karanas become part of the temple sculpture when from the Vedic sacrificial mode of worship there is development into construction of temples and worship at temples, right? So this is how the whole thing is. Yes, questions. Yes, we should have questions now. All right.
That's okay. So according to you, Karanas influenced sculpture.
Karanas?
Influenced creation of sculptures.
Not only,
temples.
well, this is what I said
Because
yesterday.
I was under the
Yes,
preconceived notion that
yes.
it was the temple architecture that influenced.
Right. I said yesterday that Indian dance, which consists of Nritta, principles of Natya, and Nritta is primarily described as Karanas, led to the development of the art of sculpture. Good. This is one part of it. Because all these, not just the Nrityanganas, but all the different Devis, icons of Devis and Devatas, which you find on the temple walls, all Yakshanis, all other beings like Gandharvas and Kinnars, when they are depicted on the temple as dancing, they take their formats, they take their basic postures from dance, which is very well defined in the Natya Shastra in terms of Nritta, right? This is what I said about development of the art form. Now today I pointed out to you, why is it that Karana, just as a language, 108 Karanas, separately are inserted into the temples, either at the gates as in Nataraj, or in the Garbhagriha, I think in Thanjavur. And now they, as research is going on, they're discovering it far and wide. So these are two different things. One is the development of the art of sculpture as it is depicted on the temple walls. Art to depict various kinds of activity. And the other is the ritual, the symbolic retention of the Karanas as the basic grammar of Nritta. But why do they do it? Because this was the grammar in which the Dhruvas were taken in from the Vedic period. Am I able to clarify what I said? That this is a ritual retention. This is one thing. It's like writing a grammar. Because Karanas by themselves are not dance. 108 Karanas, it's like a dictionary is not a literary poem. Do you understand? A dictionary, a thesaurus, an Amarkosh is only a collection of words. But because we want poetry to be written and people to learn a language, therefore we preserve the dictionary. And then if we think that dictionary is Vaikhari, if it is Vak, if it is sacred, then we put it in some place to repeat it. This is what is being done by just depicting the Karanas in the temples. Because these Karanas were the language, the fundamental language of Nritta as they were practiced even in the Vedic times in the Dhruvas. Is that right? All right, any other questions?
A few more questions on that. Is that right that to say that Karanas were adapted and adopted from Vedic culture to dance, to Natya culture? If that is right, argument.
All right, yes, you can put it in this language very well.
Then is Karana only has a ritualistic background?
Does Karana?
Has a ritualistic only, or it has a, what is the background of Karanas? What is the purpose of a Karana for that matter? Is it only ritualistic?
No, it's absolutely practical. See, the real thing is nritta. The real thing is music. When you write down Saregama Padhani, and when you analyze it and you describe it, and when you say that in a sargam, Saregama Padhani, ma is right in the middle, this is the analysis part of it. The real performance, the lakshya, is music, singing a tune, putting these swaras to a practical use. Now, I am giving you a parallel example.
Yeah.
But when we analyze how this tune has come into existence, what are the different constituents of this tune, how can we change tunes, how can we create new tunes, then we analyze the Murchana Saregama Padhani or the Sargam Saregama Padhani, the scale. So analysis of the scale, description of the different notes is like grammar of music.
Bharatji, then can we say this way, in the elaborate ritual, Vedic rituals which used to happen months together, there is one section or there are several sections where it is allocated for entertainment. During that entertainment, Karanas were enacted. Is it right? Is the statement?
Let's not put the cart before the horse. Let's not go in the opposite direction. Dhruvas were performed.
Dhruvas were performed.
And when the movements of nritta were analyzed and broken into part and made into a grammar,
Karanas were codified.
then there was, let us say, the making, imagining, fabrication, analysis of certain postures called karana.
Then the outcome of the purpose of the
Now,
Dhruva.
once that language has been written out, that grammar, let us say, has been written out, then you want to preserve that grammar, as sacred. And hence, in the outcome of Karana is dance. Yes, he would like to explain. Please give the mic. Yeah.
Now the Karanas, whatever, it is not in the beginning. In my observation, from your talk, the rituals are performing. There are movements, not as the Karana is now. It developed the rituals after centuries. It developed some stage. And then from there, it used for either performance or in the sculpture. I don't think sculpture will be the first, because Anadi, Nirtam Anadi mentioned. For sculpture, there must be something to do before that. So it was in the beginning, it was not as purified as we see in the Karanas. It was in the process of development, it reached in such a level. So in Dhruvas, in the beginning, I don't think they did with the pure Karanas or anything. Some movements, steps, and it developed in some stage. It is beautiful. Then they get this. When we have grammar, the language must be there. Otherwise, we cannot create any grammar. And then at that time, the language cannot be that very much stylized. When the grammar gets more strong, then the language gets more clear. And so that way, it was the process of development in the rituals and all these things. And then when we can be either in the beginning, the sculpture will be first or dance adapted. That either way we can have.
From folk
Yeah,
and
that
tribal.
can be. Both.
Well, look, it's first of all, this in itself is a prejudice. Then, for everything you go to a simple form, folk and tribal. Please don't fall into this trap. Let us be a little more human before we are urban and cultured and uncultured, tribal and sophisticated. What does a child do? A child speaks a broken language, single words, half words, distorted, or what we think is distorted word, and then some few sentences, then proper sentences. All right? Then we tell the child, please pronounce it correctly. Write it this way. Associate this sound with this alphabet. Then we formally teach the child that the sound A is to be written in Devanagari like this, in Persian script like this, etc., etc. Now these are classifications. All these classifications come after something of utility and practice, or what is called lakshya, an art form, has come into existence. And then that classification is used for further development of this art. That's all. So this applies to grammar, it applies to music, it applies to painting and everything. Now when we classify, then we say, first of all, karana, then matrika, then angahara. This is the procedure followed in classification. This is not the procedure followed in life or in art. You understand? Nobody sings a swara. You only sing a rag or a tune, a dhun. Because if you are just going to sing a swara, there will be no difference between you and a harmonium. A harmonium can just produce a swara, one after another. A musical instrument by itself can only produce dead, meaningless notes. But a human being produces a musical tune, whether it's a complicated tune as a rag or a simple tune. And then of course it can be classified that yes, this tune is sung in this region where this kind of people called Jarawa live in Andaman and they are tribal. And hence it is a tribal tune. And this is produced in Mylapore. And here these are Tamil Brahmins. All right? All this classification and all this comes much later. So same applies to karana and development of forms, preservation. We have a question. Yeah.
Just 1 minute, then about the Anadi, the Shiva thinks that because it was thinks about his own dance, and there is another version about Shiva thinks about the Sandhya dance and he takes